Welcome to the Psych Ignition. Have you ever walked through life feeling like you're seeing something others don't? Like you're tuned into the silent frequencies beneath people's words, the gaps in their smiles, the hidden meanings behind calm expressions? Most move through life on autopilot, but you read the world. That ability is both a blessing and a burden. Sigma males live in that paradox. Their minds aren't wired for surface-level illusions. They perceive patterns hidden in chaos, motives buried in conversation, and energy shifts others dismiss as imagination. It's not that they want to be different, it's that they can't unsee what their awareness exposes. It's a form of psychological awakening, a mental clarity that refuses to settle for the world's comfortable delusions. But with that clarity comes isolation, because once you see the truth, you realize how rare it is to find others who do. Most people crave comfort. Sigma males crave truth. And that truth often sets them apart, misunderstood, misjudged, but never mistaken. Their silence is not weakness. It's restraint. Their solitude is not loneliness. It's independence. They live between two worlds, one asleep in conformity, and one wide awake in awareness. And while that awareness can feel heavy, it also brings freedom, the kind of freedom that comes from no longer being controlled by illusions. So, if you've ever felt like an outsider, it's not because you're broken. It's because you see too clearly to pretend. You weren't designed to blend in. You were built to stand apart. Stay awake. Stay grounded. Stay dangerous. Let's begin. Number 1, clarity is a curse when surrounded by the blind. There's a strange kind of pain that comes with seeing things too clearly. Sigma males live in that space, where truth burns brighter than illusion. Have you ever told someone a hard truth they weren't ready to hear? Maybe you pointed out a lie in their relationship or sensed the quiet manipulation in a friendship. And what did you get in return? Silence. Defensiveness. Or worse, rejection. That's what happens when vision meets denial. Sigma males don't just listen to words, they feel the energy beneath them. They notice when a smile is stretched too tight, when laughter doesn't reach the eyes, or when someone's "I'm fine" is drowning in tension. They pick up on things most people spend their lives avoiding. It's not intuition alone, it's awareness sharpened by pattern recognition, empathy, and psychological depth. But when they speak truth into spaces built on illusion, it makes people uneasy. Because most people would rather cling to comfort than confront reality. To the unawakened, a Sigma's clarity feels like confrontation. It's not that he's cold or arrogant, it's that he sees through the fog others are still trying to navigate. It's like being the only person in a dimly lit room wearing glasses, everyone else is squinting at shadows, and when you describe what's actually there, they call you crazy. But clarity doesn't make you crazy, it makes you different. It makes you dangerous to the lie. Psychologically, this is called cognitive dissonance, when people resist truths that threaten their identity or comfort zone. The Sigma doesn't bow to that resistance. He lives in truth, even when it costs him belonging. That's the curse, and the freedom, of awareness. Because once you see clearly, you can't go back to the blur. And while that clarity might create distance, it also becomes a compass. It keeps the Sigma grounded in authenticity when the world around him trades honesty for approval. He doesn't chase validation, he seeks alignment. He'd rather walk alone in truth than be surrounded by the blind in illusion. That's the paradox of the awakened mind, it hurts to see too much, but it hurts more to pretend you don't. Number 2, people call it paranoia when you're just early. It's a strange feeling, knowing what's coming before anyone else can see it. Sigma males live in that gap between intuition and reality, where their instincts whisper the truth long before it becomes obvious to others. Have you ever warned someone about a person, a plan, or a situation, only to be told you were overthinking? And then, months later, the very thing you predicted unfolds exactly as you said it would? By then, everyone's forgotten your warning, but you remember. Because you saw it. Most people call that paranoia. For the Sigma, it's precision. He isn't guessing, he's reading. He's analyzing subtle shifts in tone, behavior, and timing. He notices when someone's kindness feels rehearsed, when excitement in a room feels too forced, or when a system starts tightening its grip under the disguise of order. It's not fear, it's foresight. His brain connects invisible dots most people don't even know exist yet. Psychologically, this comes from pattern sensitivity, the mind's ability to detect trends and emotional signals before they become explicit. It's an evolutionary advantage, not a flaw. But in a world that worships appearances and dismisses intuition, this kind of awareness can look like cynicism. The Sigma isn't negative, he's simply tuned into frequencies others can't hear yet. Imagine a workplace where everyone's celebrating a new leader. The Sigma watches quietly, sensing something off in their tone, a little too charming, a little too controlling. He says, "Keep an eye on this one." Everyone laughs it off. Fast forward a few months, and that leader is the root of chaos. The Sigma doesn't say, "I told you so." He just walks away quietly, already 2 steps ahead. What people mistake for paranoia is often premature truth. The Sigma male doesn't wait for proof to validate his perception. He trusts his inner calibration, the kind of accuracy that only comes from years of observation, disappointment, and solitude. While others chase comfort in ignorance, he embraces the discomfort of foresight. And when the storm finally arrives, while others are scrambling for shelter, the Sigma is already standing in the calm, watching the thunder he predicted finally crash. Number 3, they see through people, not just around them. There's a difference between looking at people and truly seeing them. Sigma males have mastered that difference. They don't just observe behavior, they dissect it. They don't get distracted by words, charm, or presentation. They read the rhythm behind what's being said, the silence between sentences, the energy that lingers after someone leaves the room. Most people notice faces. The Sigma notices truths hidden in micro-expressions, in nervous laughter, in what psychology calls leakage, those unconscious slips that reveal what someone is really feeling. Ever been in a conversation where someone's smiling, but something feels off? To most, it's nothing. To the Sigma, it's everything. He studies the slight hesitation before an answer, the flicker in the eyes when a subject shifts, the controlled tone that masks insecurity. He doesn't do it out of paranoia, it's just how his mind works. The Sigma's brain is wired for pattern and authenticity, meaning falsehoods light up in his awareness like warning signs. This makes him both fascinating and unsettling to others. People can sense when they're being seen too clearly. It's why some avoid eye contact with him or feel uneasy in his presence. Because when you're in front of a Sigma, there's nowhere to hide. His gaze doesn't judge, but it reveals. And that revelation can be uncomfortable for anyone still wearing a mask. Psychologists might call this high empathic accuracy, the rare ability to decode others' internal states based on subtle cues. But for the Sigma, it feels less like a skill and more like a burden. Once he sees the truth, he can't unsee it. When someone's pretending to be kind, he catches the flicker of competition in their tone. When someone preaches loyalty, he senses the undertone of self-interest. And while everyone else is fooled by performance, the Sigma's silence speaks louder than exposure. He rarely confronts people directly. He doesn't need to. Awareness is his quiet armor. The Sigma's strength lies not in calling people out, but in understanding them without saying a word. He moves through a world of facades with surgical perception, seeing not just around people, but through them. And once you've seen the truth behind the mask, every performance becomes transparent, and every silence becomes meaningful. Number 4, their insight threatens control systems. There's something deeply unsettling about a man who can't be controlled, not because he's rebellious, but because he sees too much. Sigma males walk through life with that quiet defiance. They don't shout. They don't demand attention. They simply refuse to play along with illusions built to keep others in line. In a world where most people follow the script, smile when told, nod on cue, conform for approval, the Sigma questions everything. That single act of awareness makes him a threat to any system built on manipulation. Whether it's in workplaces, schools, or social circles, the Sigma's mind is wired to notice the unseen structures of power, the unspoken hierarchies, the emotional bribes, the social contracts everyone silently agrees to. While others compete for position within the system, the Sigma studies its design. He sees how control hides behind civility, how flattery replaces honesty, and how obedience masquerades as unity. It's not arrogance, it's perception. He's not trying to overthrow the system, he's simply immune to its hypnosis. Psychologically, this reflects what Carl Jung might call individuation, the process of breaking free from collective conditioning to form a self-governing identity. The Sigma doesn't belong to the herd because he's completed what most never start, the journey inward. That independence doesn't just make him untouchable, it makes him dangerous to systems that rely on conformity to survive. When a Sigma enters a room, his energy disrupts the invisible chains. In meetings, his silence exposes pretenders. In social circles, his calm detachment challenges the performative. And in structures that depend on obedience, his presence alone whispers rebellion, not the loud kind, but the intelligent kind. The kind that asks, why? Control systems can't fight awareness. So instead, they label it. They call the Sigma difficult, uncooperative, or too independent. But that's just the system's defense mechanism against truth. Because you can't manipulate a man who doesn't crave acceptance. You can't dominate someone who doesn't fear isolation. The Sigma doesn't escape the system by breaking it, he transcends it by seeing it for what it is. And in a world that punishes free minds, that's the most dangerous kind of power there is, clarity without compliance. Number 5, they don't just hear words, they decode intent. For most people, conversation is about what's said. For the Sigma male, it's about what's meant. He listens differently, not to respond, not to impress, but to understand the architecture of someone's communication. Every tone, pause, and word choice becomes data. Every subtle shift in energy tells him more than the words themselves ever could. It's why people often feel both drawn to and uneasy around him. They sense he's not listening superficially, he's scanning beneath the surface. He can tell when a compliment hides envy, when an apology masks manipulation, or when someone's just joking to test a boundary. He hears the emotional frequency behind words, not just their sound. Psychologically, this ability aligns with high emotional granularity, the capacity to distinguish fine shades of emotion that others miss. While most people categorize feelings as happy, sad, or angry, the Sigma perceives layers, irritation disguised as calm, insecurity disguised as confidence, admiration tangled with resentment. His mind naturally maps the intent behind language. This makes him a master at reading motives. When someone tries to influence him through guilt, praise, or flattery, he recognizes the tactic instantly. He knows when someone's trying to gain leverage, and he quietly sidesteps it. To others, it seems like luck or coldness. But it's not. It's perception filtered through detachment. And here's the twist, he rarely exposes what he knows. The Sigma doesn't need to call someone out to prove his awareness. He plays the long game, allowing people to reveal themselves in time. His silence isn't ignorance, it's strategy. Because the moment you reveal what you've decoded, you give others the chance to adjust their mask. The Sigma prefers to let them think he didn't notice, until the truth collapses on its own. This is why he's nearly impossible to manipulate. You can't deceive someone who listens for what you didn't say. You can't control a man who studies your intention instead of your expression. And that's what separates the Sigma from everyone else. While others engage in conversation, he engages in psychological translation. He doesn't just hear your words. He hears your agenda. Number 6, they attract energy, not attention. The Sigma male doesn't chase the spotlight, he draws it in without trying. There's a kind of magnetic stillness about him, a quiet gravity that pulls people in without noise or performance. While most chase validation through visibility, the Sigma's presence speaks louder than any attempt to be noticed. He doesn't seek attention because he commands energy. And that's far more powerful. When he walks into a room, he doesn't announce himself. He doesn't need to. His calm, controlled demeanor unsettles the loud and intrigues the observant. It's the paradox of the Sigma: the less he tries to be seen, the more people feel him. This isn't about arrogance, it's about energetic coherence. His inner world aligns with his outer one. No pretense. No desperation. No mask. Just authenticity, and authenticity radiates. Psychologists might connect this to what's known as low reactivity dominance. It's the power that comes from emotional stability, not aggression. A Sigma's energy is measured and grounded. He doesn't mirror chaos, he neutralizes it. People instinctively sense that, they gravitate toward him because his stillness feels safe in a world addicted to noise. That's why extroverts often seek him out without knowing why. His silence feels like a mirror, one that reflects who they truly are when the performance fades. And that reflection can be both comforting and unnerving. The Sigma doesn't compete for energy, he balances it. He listens deeply, speaks with intention, and never wastes motion. In a society obsessed with constant stimulation, that level of composure feels almost supernatural. He doesn't post for validation, brag for approval, or broadcast his value. The Sigma understands something profound: real power doesn't announce itself, it resonates. And resonance lasts longer than recognition. Attention fades, energy endures. So, while others chase eyes, the Sigma captures souls. While others burn out seeking applause, he remains centered, drawing in opportunities, people, and respect not through performance, but through presence. Because when your energy is aligned, attention becomes irrelevant. The world simply notices, without you ever asking it to. Number 7, they create distance without losing connection. One of the most misunderstood qualities of the Sigma male is his distance. People often mistake it for arrogance, detachment, or coldness, but in truth, it's something much deeper and more intentional. The Sigma doesn't distance himself because he dislikes people. He does it to preserve alignment. He understands that constant closeness blurs perspective, and that too much noise drowns out intuition. His solitude isn't isolation, it's calibration. He knows that to see clearly, you sometimes have to step back. While others cling to relationships out of fear, fear of being alone, fear of losing relevance, fear of being forgotten, the Sigma steps away to recharge, to observe, and to think independently. That's the paradox of his energy: he can connect deeply without needing to cling. His connections are built on mutual understanding, not constant presence. Psychologically, this behavior reflects secure detachment, a rare balance between emotional independence and authentic connection. The Sigma doesn't depend on others to define his worth, yet he values genuine bonds when they align with his truth. That's why people often describe their connection with him as strangely powerful. Even when he's gone, they still feel him. His absence carries weight because his presence was real. He's the kind of person who can disappear for weeks, months, even years, and when he returns, it's as if no time has passed. Because his relationships aren't built on small talk or routine, they're built on frequency. If someone's vibration still aligns with his, the bond remains untouched by time. This ability to create distance without severing connection confuses people who equate love with proximity and loyalty with availability. But the Sigma operates differently. He doesn't confuse attention with affection. He knows that space strengthens truth and that closeness, when forced, breeds dependency. So, he moves like the tide, approaching with warmth, withdrawing with purpose. Never disappearing in resentment, only retreating for renewal. And those who truly understand him know this: when a Sigma steps back, it's not rejection. It's refinement. Because in his world, distance isn't the absence of connection, it's the proof of it. Only real bonds survive the silence. Number 8, They intimidate through silence, not aggression. There's a unique kind of power in silence, the kind that doesn't demand attention but commands it effortlessly. Sigma males embody that power. They don't raise their voices, they don't argue for dominance, and they don't waste energy proving their strength. Instead, they radiate it through stillness. Their silence is not emptiness, it's presence. It's a mirror that reflects everyone's truth back at them. People often underestimate the Sigma until they feel that silence. It's not passive, it's penetrating. In a heated room full of loud opinions, his quiet demeanor cuts sharper than any shout. Because when everyone else is reacting, the Sigma is calculating. He doesn't rush to speak, he measures every word, every glance, every breath. And that restraint creates tension. People start to wonder what he's thinking, what he knows, and what he's capable of. That mystery becomes its own kind of dominance. Psychologically, this reflects what experts call nonverbal authority. It's the power to influence without verbal assertion. Studies show that calmness under pressure signals confidence and control, two traits that instinctively command respect. The Sigma doesn't fight for control, he embodies it. He knows that the loudest one in the room is rarely the most powerful, it's usually the one who doesn't need to speak to be felt. His silence serves multiple purposes. It disarms manipulation, because you can't control someone who doesn't react. It exposes insecurity, because silence makes pretenders uncomfortable. And it asserts boundaries, because nothing says, "I see through you," louder than an unflinching gaze and no response. This is why arguments with a Sigma rarely escalate. He won't play emotional tug-of-war. When faced with provocation, he doesn't explode, he withdraws into that deadly calm that says, "I'm not wasting energy on this." That composure frustrates those who crave validation or control, making them unravel in their own noise. His silence is his sword. It cuts through deception, chaos, and ego without leaving a mark. Because true intimidation doesn't come from aggression, it comes from restraint. The Sigma doesn't dominate by force, he dominates by frequency. His calmness becomes confrontation. His quiet becomes command. And in a world addicted to noise, that kind of silence becomes the loudest truth of all. Number 9, they make solitude look like power, not punishment. Most people fear solitude because it feels like emptiness, a space where they have to face themselves without distraction. But for the Sigma male, solitude isn't a void. It's a fortress. It's where he resets his energy, sharpens his perception, and refines his purpose. While others chase crowds to escape their thoughts, the Sigma walks into the silence willingly, because he knows that's where strength is forged. He's comfortable in his own company because he understands something society often hides: solitude isn't the absence of connection, it's the presence of clarity. It's the space where your mind stops echoing other people's noise long enough for you to hear your own voice again. For the Sigma, that voice isn't just thought, it's guidance. It's the inner compass that keeps him authentic in a world that constantly pressures people to conform. Psychologically, this reflects self-differentiation, the ability to maintain one's identity and calm even when surrounded by external chaos. The Sigma doesn't isolate to escape, he isolates to align. His solitude isn't loneliness, it's strategy. It's the quiet lab where he studies life, rebuilds his focus, and recharges his emotional armor before stepping back into a world that drains most people dry. People often project their own discomfort onto his independence. They assume he's lonely because they would be. They mistake his calm for sadness and his quiet for emptiness. But the truth is, the Sigma's solitude is full of thought, creativity, and insight. When he disappears, he's not retreating, he's cultivating. Every moment alone strengthens the foundation of his inner world. And here's the paradox: his comfort in solitude makes him even more magnetic socially. Because when you no longer need company, your energy changes. You become lighter, freer, more selective. You attract people not from hunger, but from harmony. The Sigma's independence becomes his allure. People sense he's whole on his own, and that wholeness feels like power. So, while others equate solitude with punishment, the Sigma redefines it as sovereignty. He doesn't run from being alone, he rules from it. His silence is not exile, it's empire. And that's why the world can never truly own him. Because the man who finds peace in solitude becomes the one thing every system fears, a soul that cannot be controlled. Number 10, they don't compete, they out-evolve. Most people live life trying to outshine someone else, competing for status, approval, or fleeting recognition. The Sigma male operates differently. He doesn't measure his worth against others because he's too busy evolving himself. While the world chases illusions of superiority, he focuses on mastery, understanding, and growth. Competition is a game for those who fear stagnation, evolution is the path for those who refuse to be controlled. The Sigma watches others exhaust themselves in petty rivalries, validation contests, and performative achievements. He sees the patterns in ambition, the predictable cycles of envy and ego, and the empty victories that leave people hollow. Instead of climbing ladders built on deception or approval, he builds his own foundation, quiet, steady, unshakable. And by the time others realize they've been racing in circles, the Sigma is already steps ahead, having refined himself in ways the crowd cannot even perceive. Psychologically, this aligns with intrinsic motivation, pursuing growth and mastery for internal fulfillment rather than external reward. He doesn't need applause to validate his journey. The Sigma's evolution is self-reinforcing, each insight, each moment of awareness, each act of integrity compounds into a strength that cannot be granted or taken away by anyone else. This is why he intimidates people who rely on appearances. Leaders who manipulate through fear or charm find their control slipping in the Sigma's presence. The Sigma doesn't challenge them directly, he simply outpaces them silently. Their tactics, their games, their illusions, they hold no power over someone who operates on a higher level of perception. And here's the essential truth, evolution is invisible. You don't see the hours spent observing, reflecting, and learning. You only notice the results, the calm competence, the unshakable presence, the ability to navigate storms before anyone else senses them. That's the Sigma's gift, he doesn't just survive in the chaos, he transforms it into advantage. The Sigma male doesn't compete. He transcends. He doesn't follow. He anticipates. He doesn't seek power. He embodies it. Number 11, they become the mirror people want to smash. The Sigma male doesn't need to confront you to make you uncomfortable. His presence alone holds a quiet power that forces reflection. People feel it without understanding why, a mirror held up to their own truths, insecurities, and illusions. And because most are terrified of facing themselves, they react the only way they know how, with resistance, resentment, or projection. He doesn't criticize, lecture, or expose intentionally. He simply is. Calm. Observant. Authentic. And that authenticity reflects the contrast in others, the masks they wear, the performances they rely on, the gaps between who they are and who they pretend to be. The Sigma doesn't ask for recognition. He doesn't enforce morality. But the mirror he represents doesn't lie, and people instinctively sense it. Psychologically, this is a form of social mirroring on a heightened level. Humans unconsciously reflect and adapt to the energy of those around them. When a Sigma enters a space, the contrast between his grounded, composed energy and the chaos, pretension, or insecurity of others becomes impossible to ignore. That reflection is powerful, it's uncomfortable precisely because it's honest. People try to break this mirror. They gossip, undermine, or distance themselves. But the Sigma remains unchanged. He doesn't bend to the discomfort he creates. He doesn't try to be liked or accepted. And paradoxically, those who resist him the most are often the ones who need his perspective the most. This is why Sigma males are feared in both subtle and profound ways. They force awareness without ever raising their voice. Their calmness cuts through deception. Their presence exposes pretense. And because they reflect reality so clearly, those around them are left with a choice: confront their own truth, or lash out at the one showing it. The Sigma becomes the mirror the world wants to shatter, not because he's aggressive, but because he's real. And in a society built on illusion, truth is terrifying. Number 12, they recognize that being awake can't be reversed. Once the Sigma male awakens to the realities others ignore, there is no going back. He has seen the layers of deception, the subtle manipulation behind smiles, the invisible rules that govern behavior, and the control systems that shape society. That awareness is permanent. The moment you perceive the machinery behind life's illusions, your mind cannot unsee it. Sleepwalking becomes impossible. Living blindly is no longer an option. Being awake carries both burden and power. He notices the hidden motives in friendships, the unspoken hierarchies in workplaces, and the quiet selfishness masked as kindness. He sees patterns of betrayal before they unfold, the hypocrisy before it's spoken aloud, and the truth that most people will never acknowledge. And because he sees it all, he interacts differently. He chooses his energy carefully, values authenticity above convenience, and refuses to settle for illusions. Psychologically, this is the essence of heightened metacognition, the ability to observe the social world and one's own thinking simultaneously. The Sigma is no longer guided by surface appearances or societal expectations. He navigates life through clarity, insight, and discernment. He can forgive deception, but he won't forget it. He can participate in a system, but he won't pretend to be blind. Once awake, every choice is intentional, every relationship is measured, and every step is guided by vision rather than habit. This awakening may isolate him, but it also protects him. He becomes immune to manipulation, impervious to control, and aligned with truth. Being awake is not a title, a phase, or a trend, it's a permanent state of perception. Once seen, the world cannot be unseen. And that makes the Sigma male both rare and powerful, free in a society that thrives on compliance, awake in a world that sleeps. So what does it mean to live as a Sigma male in a world addicted to illusion? It means clarity comes at a cost, but also a gift. It means seeing too much, noticing patterns no one else perceives, and carrying truths others ignore. It means walking quietly through rooms full of chaos and still knowing the currents beneath the surface. The Sigma doesn't seek validation. He doesn't play for attention. He doesn't conform. He observes, decodes, and moves with precision. And in that quiet observation lies his power, freedom, autonomy, and insight that can never be taken away. Being awake separates him from the herd, but that separation isn't a weakness, it's armor. It is what allows him to navigate deception, resist control, and remain unshaken when the world around him sways in fear or confusion. His solitude is not loneliness, it is sovereignty. His silence is not absence, it is command. His vision is not a curse, it is a weapon. For the Sigma male, life is never about blending in. It is about standing ahead, walking quietly, seeing clearly, and leading by example in a world that refuses to wake up. And while few will understand, that is irrelevant. Because in the end, the Sigma male knows this truth: the world may prefer the blur, but those who see clearly are the ones who ultimately shape it, quietly, powerfully, and unshaken. If this video hit home, don't just watch. Hit that like button and subscribe. Join this community of men who refuse to be ordinary. Click the video flashing on the screen to learn more about Sigma male's insights. Stay focused, stay disciplined, and embrace the Sigma mindset. Thank you for watching.